call this Creve Coeur School District Number 76 Board of Education January 28th regular meeting in order. If you'll stand, please, and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey.
Here.
Pam Griner.
Here.
Brenda Cagle.
Here.
Val Reagan. Here. Julie Troop.
Here.
Rebecca Kern. Here. Judy Strong.
Present. On tonight's agenda, we will be tabling E2 and also informational item G1. On G1, we'd like to table that for the next regular board meeting in February. At this,
And are we going to remove K2?
oh, I'm sorry, there's one more. Yes, and we are also removing K2 at this time for further evaluation on that. So, having said that, I welcome the citizens that are present and the staff that has showed, and will open comments from the public. Yes, Mr. Giddens.
Randy Giddens, 821 South Creve Coeur Avenue. A couple of comments. One of them is on your consent agenda. One of the things that you're doing is your payments list. And I've brought this up in the past. The things that I'm questioning is this money that you're spending. I think the maintenance grant on the grant is restricted to only repairing items. And if I understand it correctly, the funds, the matching funds that the district is using is coming out of the fire and safety funds. The line item that the fire and safety funds is budgeted under does not permit you to do any maintenance. It's strictly for expanding, like you want to expand your fire team, fire sprinkler system, expand the alarm system or anything like that. But as far as repairs, it's on the wrong line item. I don't understand why the board won't handle that, correct that item, and become in compliance with the code. Because it only takes a couple of votes, and it's to move the money from one line item to the proper line item. You did that, the school board did that last year. They didn't budget the renovations because they didn't show up in there. So when Springfield looks at this, there was no renovation project, the Litchfield building. It didn't show up in the budget. And I don't know why it wasn't reported in the annual financial report, like a couple other items. But I can give you a copy if you would like, and it clearly explains the difference in the two line items. I mean, if that's what they're spending money on. As long as the board keeps approving it, I don't know if it'll ever change. But if enough board members say, no, these people deserve getting paid. They did the work, they should be paid for. And they definitely deserve to get paid. But I think the district should come in compliance with the code, with their budget. She looked confused. But she has that there. It tells you the difference in the two codes. And I gave you a copy of that on page. So if that's where it's budgeted from, if you're paying, it's on your payments list, you didn't budget them for repairs. And that's where the error is in the budget. And it's not that difficult to fix. Just a couple of votes, it's done. The other thing is that you're taking it off of there. Parents Club keeps coming up, and it's probably going to keep coming up until the community gets a lot of questions answered. You could have answered a lot of questions. You could have answered a lot of questions tonight because Mrs. Kern is here, Mr. Jokic is here. The other thing is
They'll be here, and we are scheduling it for the next regular meeting, as I stated. And the reason being is the whole board has not had the privilege of perusing that paperwork. And we share, and we are very strong on that. Whatever is presented at the board, we have the opportunity to look at it and to bring questions to each other on it before we present it in the public. So that's the reason it's not going tonight, and it will be on next
Well,
week.
some of the outstanding questions is.
I'd rather
is-
not talk
heard
about
it?
this.
Okay, I'm asking you to present this, hopefully get the answers out there. Burdette audit, whatever happened, where is the Burdette audit? We were
I'm
told
not
that there
talking
would be
about
no
it tonight.
spending.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gibbons. It's just taken off the agenda right now. In fact, I want to remind ourselves, because I don't see that it's out, our paperwork for comments from the audience, we erred in that, not getting it out on the table. A lot of times, we need to know what's coming to us, because we have an agenda to follow, to stay on and focus on, and so we need those filled in. So please watch for those next month and have it filled in before we call on you, so that perhaps you don't want to do it. That's fine, that's your option. But we also have the privilege of doing that. The IASB, many districts do it all the time. Thank you for tonight.
You will not let me finish my comments tonight?
If it's not on the parents thing,
Well, can we do that though?
No.
You're restricting my comments?
Okay, we can't do that.
well, what time
I
is
I
want
just
to
want
listen to what he has to
clarification.
say.
Are you
I
going
mean,
to
actually,
restrict
as
my
a board member,
comments?
I want to listen to what he has to say. It's
He has
partly
3
opens
minutes
me to
left.
that.
He has 3 minutes.
He has
Yes.
5 minutes to talk
So
about
we
whatever he
need
wants to
to-
talk
okay, how
about.
many minutes does he have left?
3.
You have 3 minutes.
I have, okay. Where is the audit? Was that board as a whole, and the superintendent won't spend any money until that audit is done? Haven't seen the audit. You look at last year's. You've also had an auditor that tell you that you should be turning a report over to this board every month of what those parents club. That was the auditor for the school district. I've never seen it on the agenda where the parents club, and that's probably why everybody was surprised last fall when the money was emptied out. You will, I have FOIA, and you have copies, several checks, one signature on them. Okay? He's supposed to be the custodian of Parkview, and she's supposed to be the custodian of LaSalle. Look at how many checks that don't have their signatures on there. How did those clear the bank? The board took the responsibility back in July, I believe it was, when you appointed those custodians. You make these rules up, and you don't follow your own rules. I don't see you following some of the state rules in that. Now you want to come up with some other rule trying to restrict comments?
It's not restriction, it's at least the courtesy to let us know what you would like to discuss. That's just a courtesy.
All right. But find out, why is there only one signature? Why is so many checks have no receipts? Some of those checks, check zeros, I'm guessing, is withdrawals. There's people in here that can answer those questions, even tonight. But I know you're moving it, but prolonging this keeps, I'm going to keep bringing the topic up. I'm not the only one that wants to know the answers out there. Why was the community told one thing and you all just was doing something else and not telling anybody? This whole board shouldn't have been surprised when that money got, was spent, because the auditor told you to get a monthly report on both of those parents' clubs, because it was using, what was it, the EIN number? And the money was supposed to be frozen. I never seen board action to let them start spending the money again. Some people need to do some explaining. The board president should do some explaining why all of this happened in the background. Why didn't anybody? The community didn't know about it. Some of the board members didn't know about it. Somebody is responsible for all of that. That's all I have to say on that tonight.
Yeah.
No, not at this time.
Any other comments? Okay. Having none, we'll move on to action items. We need a motion, please, for E1.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
A second.
Comments?
I have a comment, because I don't know. In keeping with Mr.
Giddens just said. Is he talking about the bill, it says, education? which
Can you
bill
give us a
was-
page, please?
Yeah, page 5. And it's vendor check number 10E0022540. I just don't know, because it says school operations and maintenance. Is that okay? I mean, I guess I'm confused of what money was spent for the matching grant money. What fund it came out of.
Yeah, I'm
Now,
not
what's the check
following where you're at
That's the
either.
water
Pardon?
bill.
What's the check number?
Is
No,
it?
this one right here.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. 110.
Forget that, give me this. The check.
One next to the name.
It is. This is his check number, vendor name.
Creve Coeur Water Department,
The
Yes.
water department bill?
15197.
15197.
Yep.
That's under the speech services, isn't it? Education, Litchfield, operations and maintenance.
Okay, that goes with this check, 15197, right?
Yep.
It's
Yes.
water.
I just don't
Here's
want.
your check number.
So it's water, water.
15197.
Okay.
Right.
And then, so it's all water.
Right.
But that has nothing to do with the fire and safety fund that he's talking about, I don't believe.
No, the
Is
water
that
is
correct?
3931.
That's
Okay,
not-
so what exactly is he talking about? Is
Well,
it on
if
this
these
payments
payment
list?
list hasn't been approved yet, how does he know what's on it?
He doesn't know what's on this yet.
Okay, well, I didn't know which one it was coming out of. I was getting a little
Well, I'd like to
confused.
know what he's talking about too, because like I said, if this hasn't been approved yet, it's not out in public,
So
supposedly.
maybe we should talk about the last one that was approved.
I'd like to know.
Then we
Maybe we
need
should
to
ask him.
Is
we're all
it on
confused.
this payments list?
I have no idea what's on the payments list. I haven't pulled a payments list recently. If yours was coming out of maintenance, operations and maintenance fund, you did finance repairs and operations and maintenance. That's not what I'm questioning. If you're spending money out of the fire and
And safety.
and safety, if you're spending money out of that on repairs, look at the line item, you did not finance budget
Okay.
any money for repairs.
Okay, we heard
Doesn't know
that.
that that's
I
what
just,
we're doing.
I heard you say at the very beginning of your conversation that it was a check on the payments
I'm
list.
asking you
we're
to check the
so-
payments list under the fire, or excuse me.
Okay, my mistake. I thought you said we did spend it out of fire and
Exactly.
safety.
You may not spend any fire and safety tonight, I don't know.
In the past, did we?
You have to
I wanna
ask
know.
him. I
I
haven't
don't
played
think-
recently, you have to
He's not
ask him.
our professional.
hasn't-
but-
Voided anything.
Sorry.
He said.
I was getting confused. I
But
thought
I
you meant
did
this
ask
one.
the
I'm like, oh
superintendent,
my
is he
God.
spending that money?
That is all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Aldrich, could you go back and make sure that we have not spent any of the fire and safety money inappropriately?
Thank you.
I just want it on record.
Yes.
You will do that for us and let us know if we have, because I was done anything from the position.
So that's the only thing I can see is this one. I
He'll
thought, was he
also
talking about this
present
one?
G4,
I'm glad
district
we're on the same
financial
page.
profile.
Yeah, I noticed. So you will let us know. Very good.
Okay, any other comments? Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey.
Aye.
Cam Griner.
Aye.
Brenda Cagle. Aye. Val Reagan. Aye. Julie True.
Aye.
Rebecca Kern. Aye. Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Moving on to communications, which we have none. But informational items, G2 board setting meeting. And I believe we all got a memo that we bring our calendars so that we might kind of look to see.
It's like a-
I don't have my work schedule in here. Sorry.
First back.
I guess. I'll see if I got any of February.
What are we looking for, what month?
Yes, sir. Aldridge will be presenting it to us. Because of our backlash and our February agenda, I think we're going into March.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. The board goal setting meeting, a number of the board members have indicated that a meeting to look toward what we need as goals, what's our vision, where are we taking this school district, and that was something that I was very positive about and wanted to move forward. So I came up with a couple dates here, and we're looking at March 4th or the 15th as having a
March 1st.
first. I'm sorry.
March 1st.
March 1st or 15th, and having basically a long board meeting to sit and see what the board wants to do to develop our goals that we have, to try to take the next step in the process that we started with Dean Langdon from the School Board Association. So take the next step. In my conversations with Retha Owen, his predecessor, in talking with her, we kind of thought that it'd be the best idea to kind of solidify where the district's at, where the board's at, after having that meeting and a previous meeting, and put things together, and then possibly invite her back to help us with the remaining steps in nailing down the goals and objectives for the Board of Education for the school district. So this is a next step meeting, just to kind of move us forward in the process. So March 1st or 15th were Saturdays, if that's correct. And looking at a half a day, so probably 3.5 to 4 hours on a Saturday to go through all of this.
Thinking morning, afternoon, what do you think?
That's completely up to the board's pleasure, whatever you
Afternoon.
would like to do.
Evening.
I don't know if I could do the 15th, I'll be honest.
Well,
The
I
reason,
could.
if you look at your February's, we've got 2 meetings next week. Of course, our regular COW meeting,
Two meetings next week?
and then on Thursday, there's a special training meeting for board members. If you chose to go, you got notified of that.
Yeah.
That's the more one,
Yeah,
that's
the
not
more-
our meeting.
No,
And
right.
then,
right.
The
No,
18th
the division meeting.
is our regular meeting.
Sorry.
And March then, just to kind of spread things out, we have, again, 2 back-to-back on 4th and 5th. One in Pekin and one our COW meeting.
ISBA.
Yes.
You're right. Not our.
And the 15th, so the 1st and the 15th were weeks that we didn't have anything going into those weeks. The 18th, of course, is our next February meeting, and the 14th, no, I'm sorry, the 13th. When,
4th and the 18th in February.
is it 14th, March 14th through, I think, March 31st is break.
21st.
21st.
21st to the 31st is spring break here.
Okay. 10
21st
days.
is like the last day of attendance, so that's a Friday.
Yeah.
14th, sorry.
I did because my calendar looks like, even with my glasses on, it looked like that. But it's the 21st through the 31st, so therefore, because of what's coming up in February and March, it looks like those are open weeks for us. If you want to vote on it tonight, a date, or get back with, maybe with.
Julie just went.
She went to see what her work
check her
schedule
Oh, okay.
So she'll have an answer here in a minute.
Does everybody else want to give a date that they feel that is open for them?
March 1st is fine with me. I think that's what she's looking at as well. I'm good with either one.
Okay. All right.
So let's see
Either
what
one's
she-
fine.
Either one. All right.
All right, and Ms. Troop will let us know here her schedule. So moving on is our FOIA request. And this month we had, it wasn't really a FOIA request, but it was a request from the Regional Office of Education asking for documentation on some topics that were brought to her. So you can see the request and the district's response. I did email everyone all of the documents, but if you want hard copies, I can certainly have Stephanie make you some hard copies. But here's the request and the district's response. Just going through just topics that were asked about were the Parents Club, hiring contracts, the TIF money, and asbestos at Homewood. So we did supply the Regional Office of Education with all the documents that we found that were responsive to the request from the ROE, and then it's kind of out of our hands then because I'm just responding to her. And that's in her area, and she will do with it as she needs to do. So we are in compliance with the regional office in that request. G4, district financial profile. The Illinois State Board of Education provides on an annual basis a designation of a profile on how school districts in Illinois fare as far as their finances are concerned. And it looks at 5 different areas as far as fund balance to revenue ratios, expenditures, days cash on hand, percent of short-term borrowing, and percent of long-term debt margin. Those are the 5 areas that the State Board of Education analyzes to come up with a score from 1 to 4, 1 being the lowest, 4 being the highest. And you'll notice that Creve Coeur has received a perfect score all the way across in all 5 categories to give us a total profile score of 4.0, which is the highest. And this is, we'll get a little recognition certificate from the State Board of Education telling us that we are doing the right things and being positive and good fiduciary responsibility with the school district, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing with your money. So it's just a good recognition from the State Board of Education that things are well in the finances of the school district. So
I could do either day. So.
all right.
So just
So the first then, is that what I'm hearing? March 1st? All right. We will set that as the board goal setting meeting. We do not have the state organization coming to this, so this will be an open meeting, and we will post all the notices and agendas that we need to make sure that everything's kosher there.
hearing the times that were thrown out, can we
Yeah,
kind of
that's true. I do need a time.
kind of come to maybe
Time to start.
a 10 or 11 o'clock starting and ending at 1 or 2? Would everyone feel that is giving everybody a little bit of latitude on time?
Yeah.
10 o'clock?
No, that's fine.
Okay,
10 a.m. start?
10 a.m.
It might be warm in here by then.
Yeah, you're right. Very good.
Are we having it here?
Yes, yeah. Since it is an open meeting and it has to be open and convenient to the public, this is the best place to do that. Maybe Parkview, since it is a Saturday, if that's more comfortable, and people want to go there, either way. So, okay. Moving on to H, we have principals' reports. And if we could hear from our two esteemed principals, and we'll let Ms. McCarroll go first, if you don't mind.
Awesome.
Great. Mr. Jokic seems to go first a lot, so.
That's fine. That's fine. Not a problem. Well, 16 possible days of school in January. We've had 11. And needless to say, it's been a little odd. I don't think in all of my 28 years in education that I've ever experienced more than 3 days, snow, cold, whatever. So this has been very interesting. And then how it's been hit and miss, like last week, having off Monday, and then Tuesday a snow day, and then coming Wednesday, and then Thursday off, and then Friday. You know, it's just been all over. And in the middle of all this, we've been trying to do math and AIMS testing so that we can get all of that data and compare it to our beginning of the year data. So that's been a little difficult. Good thing we have a really flexible staff. They've been willing to move around and do what they need to do, and even do it in their classrooms when they should probably be doing it in the lab. But that's working out really well. And a big thank you to Mr. Aldridge for graciously approving a floating sub, well, several, probably 2 or 3 at least, floating sub so that the teachers can meet for data team meetings, going off the AIMS and the math data that we've been accruing over these last few weeks. Each grade level will have an opportunity to spend we've got about an hour and a half to 2 hours scheduled for each team. We'll be looking at switching up interventions for children if we need to, giving them the same. Hopefully we might be able to drop some support for some kids. Maybe we're seeing some rises. I've seen the preliminary data and it looks really good. I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing so far. And also we'll be looking at possible retentions. And so by looking at those possible retentions now in January, what can we do between now and the end of the school year to make sure those don't happen if we can help it. Also, we'll be starting tutoring. We were hoping to start it next week, but since everything has been going on, we haven't been able to get slips back from parents and things, so it probably looks like it'll start the following week, but it'll be 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Teachers in the building will be providing an hour of tutoring in math and or reading, and one group of 3rd and 4th graders will have just several weeks here before ISAT that will be just a ISAT surge for them. They will just be working on ISAT stuff. The teachers will, 5 3rd graders and 5 4th graders will be working together on that. So we'll be starting that. We had our second IPI walkthroughs. I don't even remember what day it was because it was one of the days that we were actually in
Last
school.
Wednesday. Last
Wednesday was here, Friday was at Parkview. But anyway, the teachers will be getting that data and reviewing that to see where we are. And again, the IPI walkthroughs look at student engagement and how they are engaged, not necessarily the instruction on the teacher's part. And so they'll be looking at that data and analyzing that to see how they can increase engagement in their own classrooms. And so for the 11 days that we've been here so far in January, it's been a good 11 days, and hopefully send out a little prayer here that we're done with snow days, cold days, all of that, and we'll be good for the rest of the year. Thank you.
I don't mean to put you on the spot. If you don't know, that's fine. Just because before you start tutoring, I'd kind of like to know, do you know how many possible retentions you might be looking at?
No, that we will be discussing. We're having our data team meetings. Actually, one of our days was today, and the other was tomorrow. But we thought in advance when we saw last week the temperature possibilities. So I think we're going to be having it this Friday. So we'll have one today and one on Friday. And I have some possibles. The teachers have been giving me things, but until we sit down and look at all the data and the interventions and where they are with their data points and all of that kind of stuff, I don't make any.
I just always think it's interesting how much the tutoring decreases it. So
are failing most subjects because of one completion. Their math scores, their Ames web scores are up here. They just aren't doing any work at home. They don't study for a test, so they fail. I think I sent an email to you, Mr. Aldridge. You know, it's really a conundrum because how do we handle that? We send them on, they've done nothing, but they really are capable of it. So that's something that we'll be discussing. What may come out of that is a homework must be group. If they're not doing their work, then they're going to have to stay after school and take home themselves. You know what I mean? Type deal. So I don't want to take kids because they're not doing homework or not studying for a test. That's just silly. Very expensive. Very expensive way of helping them learn to do their work.
Thank you.
Yeah, just kind of piggybacking on what Ms. McCardle said, the weather's just really wreaked havoc in a lot of ways. I know with our athletic events, it's always difficult because whenever there's a school cancellation, we either had a basketball game or a volleyball game that night. And, you know, our season's usually ended at a certain date. We don't like to extend that, and it's just very difficult to try and reschedule those games. So, unfortunately, it shortens our season, but it's just one of the things we have to deal with. Also, we're excited to get the MAP data. That's such a big indicator, you know, in terms of student growth, and giving us a good indicator of where students will how they will likely perform on the ISAT test coming up the first week of March. So we're real anxious to get that complete. Hopefully, we'll finish that up this week at Parkview. And again, like Ms. McCardle mentioned, we did the IPI Instructional Practices Inventory Walkthrough at Parkview last Friday. And it's just a good way to get teachers to think about what they can do to improve their instruction, to get kids engaged in more higher order learning activities. When we did this back in early December at Parkview, we averaged a 3.8. This time we averaged a 3.9, which is a little bit of an improvement. So teachers are aware of this, and you know, they're working hard to look at how to get better each day. And that's all I have.
Mr. Junkus, you said 3.8 to 3.9. How do you grade it?
It's basically, it's on a scale of 1 through 6. 1 being complete disengagement, 4 would be teachers-led instruction, 6 would be more independent student work where they're creating a project. So, and basically we just compile all the data and come up with an average. We break it down in different ways, such as by grade level, by class period, sometimes by subject. There's a lot of different ways you can look at it.
And what we want to do is, once we have all the data collected, then we'll have 2 data points for the students this year to be able to do some comparisons like Ms. McCarroll was talking about, and we'll be able to look at those. And so that'll be a report coming to the Board of Education to kind of discuss where do these things fall, how does this make how do our kids look in comparison on these tests. And it's nice because it's comparing the student to themselves, these type of tests, rather than, you know, the normed test that you're being compared to, you know, a national norm of other people. So this is the kid being compared to the kid, and with the IPI, the instructional practices, we'll put that in the report to have an explanation of how that fits into all of this and what it is that all these numbers actually mean. So, yeah. It will be coming. Scoring of the IPI. Okay. Individuals are trained, and we had a training here in the district in October. So we had a training here and brought in 2 professors, one professor and a professional development guy from 2 Rivers came in, and they trained us on this tool, this instrument, to be able to identify and observe student engagement. How are students being taught? Not how students are being taught, how are the students learning, and how are they being engaged by the instruction that's going on? the whole process is to get the students into higher order thinking. The PARC test that we're going to pilot here in April, a couple bits of that's going to take the ISAT's place. The PARC test is going to start looking at more of the higher level thinking. How can you analyze? We don't care anymore about 2 + 2 = 4. We want to know, can you think that through? And why is that true? And can you explain that? It's taking that rote fact learning out of the whole thing. I mean, you have to know facts and everything, but it's the next step is what we're going to start focusing on. So this individual who developed this instrument, this procedure, they, through the research, found that there were these 6 areas that students are engaged in some type of learning activity in the classroom. So we go through and we look at the classroom, and it's administrators, Ms. Mueller, Ms. Ricardo, Mr. Jokish, myself. We are all, they were all trained before. It's administrators, but we also brought in teachers, all right, to be trained in all of this. So we had teachers. We have 4 teachers now who've been gone through the formal training with us, and a couple that Mr. Jokish has trained over at Parkview and given them, the how-to of this. And it's, you go in, you look, you take 2 minutes to look at the kids, find out what it looks like, what they're being engaged in, and how they are engaged in that learning process, where they're at on that scale of higher order thinking. 2 minutes, and then you leave. And then you move around, and we collect in the process says at least 120 points or scores to make it a true, accurate picture of the entire school day. So we go the entire day, and we have 6-8 people that go through. Get your little clipboards, and go in. You take your 2 minutes here in this classroom, and are those students talking together and discussing, why Columbus sailed to, the Indian Islands? Are they talking together? Is the teacher lecturing to them? Is it, Ms. Ricardo, you have a sheet? Okay. Thank you. Okay. The six scores. The 6 scores are student disengagement. Students are not paying attention. There's nothing going on. They're not listening to the instruction. There's nothing happening for that student, and they're not being engaged at all. Or the student is working with the teacher. The student is working with the teacher not engaged. That would be sitting doing seat work. So the kids are doing a worksheet, and the teacher is not engaged, means that the teacher is doing some other activity that's not related to the students. All right, so they're not involved in the instruction or telling them what's going on. They're not working with any students at that time. There is student work with the teacher engaged. So you've got your whole class there, the students are working and they're doing things, usually at their seat, and it's seat work and individual work, and the teacher is engaged in maybe moving around the room and addressing and helping students who are raising their hand. They need some help there. So the teacher is being engaged in that, or possibly, is that the one where video, they're watching the videos? I don't remember, but there was part of that as well, where the students are working and the teacher is engaged. Then there's teacher-led instruction. So that's your lecture. That's where the kids are sitting there and the teacher is giving them the instruction, giving them, imparting the knowledge to them. The kids are engaged in what the teacher is telling them. It's, the the number facts, or looking at a kindergarten teacher who's reading the book to them and making them point out words and things like that. So teacher-led instruction. You can see that that's probably where that is where a lot of school is right now. It's teacher-led instruction. Okay? What we want to do is to move to the next categories, which is 5 and 6, which it's student verbal learning conversations. The students are being engaged in that instruction. The teacher is helping them through, giving them some instruction to begin with, but now the students have taken that learning and they are helping themselves. They're helping each other, they're working cooperatively, they're taking and analyzing that information that's been imparted to them, and they're doing something with it. Okay, so they're engaged in projects, or they're engaged in small group discussions, or they're working together in some factor. And then number 6 is student active engaged learning, which means the next step beyond that, not only are those students helping each other, working with each other, and analyzing and moving past just the facts and going to producing something. And they're producing something in a cooperative group. Maybe it's just two kids together working on a project. Some of the things that we saw are, you start thinking about your science fair projects. Okay, those things that kids, science fair, they kind of do on their own, but think of science fair with 2 or 3 kids. Going that next step, they're creating something. They're taking what they've learned and they're going to create something. That's where we saw at at Washington the presentation from the guy who was doing the Apple presentation, where those kindergartners they took pictures of the butterflies, and they made their flip books, and they created something, and they were able to show what they had learned in a creative manner, creating some kind of evidence of that learning. So those are the 6 areas that we look for. We know that most of the time it is just imparting that knowledge to the kids. I mean, that's what we have to do. We have to give them the information. They don't just come to us with it. So it's a lot of teacher-led instruction going on. Okay, so we'll see that there's a lot of 3s and 4s. What we want to do is start getting some 5s and 6s. We want to start, have all the staff moving toward that cooperative and engaging those kids in their learning in the classroom. Rather than just being talked to, they're now engaging in that learning. They're doing something with it. So they're able to produce and show that they've actually learned material. So, you guys want to add something into that? Speak loud.
You really want to get somewhere between 125 to 150 data points on a given day to get validity. And the continuum of 1 through 6 is not 1 is the lowest and 6 is the highest. What it is really 1 and 2 you really don't want to see a whole lot of student disengagement or student work with teacher not engaged. Maybe she's on her cell phone in the back corner or on her computer and everybody's working. You really want to see the 3, 4, 5, and 6. But like Mr. Albert said, the 3, 4, 5, and 6, you're going to see throughout the school day, every day. You should see all 4 of those. So you really have to be careful when you're averaging, because it could really show that you're not doing as well as what you probably are. So
that's why the 120 to 150 points, you want to be in there in that classroom more than just once, because maybe the teacher they're preparing for the next lesson. The kids are over there working in a center, and the teacher is over here, and he's working on what's coming up next on the whiteboard. So the teacher's not engaged in the learning, but it's not like okay, they're not doing anything connected to school. Exactly. We're only in there for those 2 minutes, so you go in, you make your assessment, and that stuff just happens. But that's why we go in there a number of times, as many times as we can fit in a day. What did we get? 280 last time, I think, or 260?
I had 257 the first time. This time I had 161.
Yeah. It's just because it was that craziness.
Disrupting to the classes though?
We tell them ahead of time. We let the teachers know. We're not there to, we're not really worried about what the teacher's doing so much. This is about the students being engaged. So we let them know, and we let them prepare the kids. People are going to be coming in and out, and blah blah blah. They're getting real used to it. And it seems like they're getting pretty used to seeing people coming in and out of the classroom. So, and when they're engaged in something, they're not really paying attention to what's going on around them. Really, that was the neat thing about when the students get engaged at that higher level. They're not really worried about what the adults are doing.
How many are coming in at a time?
Just well, we sometimes go out in pairs, and sometimes just singles. But no more than 2. Yeah. So we want teachers. We brought teachers into the training. We have we want the staff to be involved in that, because what good does it do to tell the teacher, well, we want more higher engaged instruction? Students need to be engaged. Well, if they don't know what that looks like, how are they gonna do it? So we wanted the teachers, the staff, and we'll continue to expand this, but we wanted the staff to be able to go into other classrooms, see what your neighbor's doing. They don't have time to do that. And they're not going to grow unless they're able to expand their knowledge base. And this is probably some of the best use of time, at least for me, my thinking, probably the best use of time, better than going to a professional seminar and sitting there and being non-student engaged, and sitting at you guys all do it. You've all gone to professional trainings, okay, and you're texting down here. Kids are saying, okay. So we let those teachers go into the classroom, see what's going on in this building. I want to start developing so that we can go to other districts and see what other districts are doing, but that's a next step, because there are a lot of exciting things going on in our school district. So we're real happy about that, and increases in the number, like Ms. McCarl said, it's not good, it's not bad, but we just want to start pushing towards seeing more of those higher engaged learners, because that's what all the testing's going. So, okay, I was going to say that till later, but there you go. No problem.
Could we have a motion to have a closed session, please?
I'll make the motion to enter into closed session for appointment, employment, performance, and termination of personnel.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner,
Aye.
Brenda Cagle, Val Reagan, Julie True,
Aye.
Becca Kern, aye, Judy Strong.
Yes, 5-minute break. We have a motion, please, to resume session.
I'll make the motion to resume regular session. Second.
Roll call.
Linda Bailey,
Aye.
Pam Griner, Brenda Cagle, Val Reagan, Julie True, Rebecca Kern, aye, Judy Strong.
Yes.
Motion carried.
7:24. We need a motion, please, for K1. And do we need to split those?
Make a motion to hire Barb Langjar and Donna Rowland as a temporary educational assistant for the special education program during for the remainder of 2013-2014 school year.
Second.
Val Reagan. Julie True. Becky